Hello and welcome to Oddspedia Bundesliga Matchday 3. After the international break, we are back in Germany to analyze Erik ten Hag. He's gone. He's gone. Only 2 games, Ronan, and they realized it was not the right manager. Everyone was angry at him. The players didn't get along. The directors as well. What had happened in Leverkusen, Ronan?
Yeah, if you believe everything coming out in the German media, everything went wrong. Absolutely everything. On the pitch, off the pitch, nobody liked them. Even the coaches that he brought over to be his coaches, the coaches that he chose for himself, didn't like him, according to the reports. So just everything went wrong for him. Obviously, Bayer Leverkusen are in a huge period of transition at the moment. They have sold so many players, good few of them to Liverpool, but and the Premier League. But things just did not go right from the outset for Erik ten Hag, and he's the quickest sacking ever in Bundesliga history. Just took 2 games for a new manager appointed in the summer. The previous was 5 games, so he didn't even make the second international break. Poor old Erik. We'll have to see what he does next.
Well, the person who appointed Erik ten Hag also should be fired, in my opinion, because this is a huge mistake. It was going to be very difficult to replace Xabi Alonso, but appointing Erik ten Hag made us really doubtful about the replacement, and indeed only 2 games and he's gone. So we are going to analyze very just now who is going to be his replacement, and Ronan is going to tell us a little bit more about him. So in the meantime, guys, of course, press the like, subscribe. Now let's go on with the show. And we are going to start with a very good game. We have on Friday 2 Champions League teams, Bayer Leverkusen, Eintracht Frankfurt. So it's going to be the debut of Kasper Hjulmand. He is the new manager, former North Jylland manager, winner of the Danish League with this team. Apologies for my pronunciation of these really hard Nordic names. And well, it's only 1 point in 2 games for Leverkusen. Drew in Bremen, where they were leading 1-3 or 2-0. Lost at home to Hoffenheim, and it's the opposite for Frankfurt. Perfect start for them, beating Hoffenheim, beating Werder Bremen, scoring 7 goals. So even if they sold so many players, they look really strong in this start of the season, and both are playing Champions League. As I said, both actually have an easy fixture to start in the competition. And I was also checking the head-to-head between these 2 teams, and it's curious, Ronan. Leverkusen had won the last 5.
Yeah, this is a difficult tie on paper for the new Leverkusen manager, Kasper Hjulmand, or if we're going to go for some Danish pronunciation with an Irish accent. But we'll get used to it as the week goes on. But like you said, he managed in Denmark and was a Danish champion. He also managed Denmark, got them to, I'm not going to say their best international result because that was back in 1992, but one of their best ever international performances at the Euro 2020. You remember that was the difficult tournament where Christian Eriksen obviously collapsed on the pitch and the players rallied around, and the manager did an excellent job. They reached the semi-finals. So on paper, he's the most winning Denmark manager ever. 60% of his matches he actually won as Denmark manager. He was the Mainz coach to replace Thomas Tuchel before, so he's used to replacing big names at German clubs. So he does have experience of the Bundesliga. So we'll see how he does. It is a tricky fixture to start off with because, like you said, Frankfurt are one of 3 teams in the Bundesliga with maximum points. Bayern Munich being top at the moment, and Frankfurt kind of in the mix for another strong finish again this season if they can continue on this form. And there's no reason to think they can't, because they've scored lots of goals so far, like you've said, 4 against Bremen, 3 against Hoffenheim, and 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who we mentioned in one of the World Cup qualifiers previews. He has been excellent for them, the Turkey international. He has got 4 goal involvements in the first 2 games so far. That's the first Frankfurt player in Bundesliga history, or at least since Opta have been collecting assist data as well as goal data. So yeah, he has been fantastic, and it's also the first time since the year 2000, or the second time since the year 2000, that Frankfurt have won the first 2 games of the Bundesliga season. So they're not really used to doing this, but it's tricky for them as well to go to Bayer Leverkusen. I can see that some of our commenters are predicting goals in this match, and I think that's what we have to look at. Both teams to score, yes, 147. There's not fantastic value there, but if you look at the last meetings, and like you said, Leverkusen tend to win them, but maybe not this one, but they do tend to be high-scoring affairs. The last 6 meetings all have had 3 or more goals, so we're going to go for total goals over 3 at 178.
Well, both teams to score is also 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 and 𝗵𝗵𝗀 tip over 2.5 goals for Arnaldus. 𝐬𝐵 is over, no? I think. German. And 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 is going for correct score 1-1, perhaps even more goals. This is a great game. Leverkusen playing with Copenhagen in the Champions League. Frankfurt with Galatasaray. Let's see if he is doing better than Erik ten Hag. At least if you made a mistake of appointing the wrong manager, it's better to realize very soon and try to change the trajectory of the team as soon as in September. So the season has just started for Leverkusen. And for Saturday, we have a Europa League tie between Freiburg and Stuttgart, the 2 German teams participating in the Europa League. Really poor start for Freiburg, 0 points. The only 2 teams with 0 points, Heidenheim and Freiburg. Stuttgart, 3 points. Lost away to Union Berlin, beat Gladbach at home 1-0. The bookies don't like Freiburg at this point.
No, I can see why. They are last in the Bundesliga, so it makes a lot of sense. So if you think Stuttgart are capable of winning to this one, 237 looks pretty good that we're seeing on the screen there. The last 4 games between these 2 sides have all been one-sided wins. In 23-24, Stuttgart won 5-0 and 3-1, and surprisingly, last season they were one-sided wins as well, but it was the team that was home. So Stuttgart were able to rack up lots of goals at home, and Freiburg were too. It was 3-1 and 4-0 in these home games last season. So hopefully another big scoring match. But Stuttgart haven't really shown us they can do that so far. They've only scored 2 goals so far in the Bundesliga. They're struggling to score. They played a friendly with SG last Wednesday to try. They're a lower league team that were playing in the early rounds of the cup, the first round of the cup a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it was a 6-2 win for Stuttgart, probably to build up their confidence. Chris Führich scored a hat-trick in the second half, but I'm not sure he's necessarily going to score or he's going to start in this match, because 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗻 seems to be preferred to him. Dennis Unda was injured in that win over Borussia Mönchengladbach, so 𝗵𝗵𝗀𝗻 is likely to be the striker to start up front. He could be an option as an anytime goal scorer because they need to score goals, and he is the man that they're going to ask. So if he starts, that looks good at 288. But I think Freiburg, they've started so poorly. They have, like you said, one eye on playing in Europe because they're back there. They mightn't be at their strongest in this game, so it's a good chance to look at Stuttgart doing something here. So Stuttgart win, I said, is obviously worth looking at, but Stuttgart draw no bet is probably a bit safer, 171.
We have to wait still 10 days to see the Europa League starting, but Freiburg is already with problems. Also Heidenheim, 0 points, and now playing against Dortmund at home. We usually have kind of a rule, Ronan, of not backing Borussia Dortmund in these kind of games against weak teams playing away. We saw it against Pauli. They had the game in their hand, and at the end they only drew. But the odds are kind of tempting, to be honest. 1.6 for Dortmund to win against Heidenheim. I guess we should take them, but again, I'm not sure. Should we trust this Dortmund at home? They beat Union Berlin 3-0, but it's always this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when they are playing away.
Well, that's it. I had when I was thinking of my ACCA for this week, I was looking at putting Borussia Dortmund win in it because 165 obviously looks pretty good. But I did go for Borussia Dortmund, something around the same odds, but I didn't go for a win because there's always a chance they could score 3 goals and concede 3 goals. There's always that chance when Borussia Dortmund are playing. Heidenheim have been conceding a lot of goals though. They're second last, like you said. They have no points. They lost 3-1 and 2-0. So yeah, they've scored 1 goal and conceded 5. Whereas Borussia Dortmund, they've scored 3 goals in both their games. The 3-3 draw against St. Pauli, which was kind of a shameful performance near the end of the match, but they turned around and they beat Union Berlin 3-0. So averaging 3 goals a game. Can they continue? Probably not, but they should be able to score goals against Heidenheim. So when the fixtures turn a bit more difficult, they probably won't be scoring 3 goals a game. But there's a good chance they could do it here because Heidenheim are very poor at the back. They are favourites to be relegated for a reason. They only barely stayed up last season. They did not strengthen massively. They had a few players in on loan. Obviously, the Borussia Dortmund goalkeeper, Ramage, the former Ajax goalkeeper, he's there on loan. He will be the man tasked to maybe keep the goals out this season. But I like Dortmund over 2.5 goals in this one at 263. There's a good chance they can score 3 goals again for the 3rd match in a row. Dortmund win 165, like you said, is pretty good. But there is a bet that we have been doing. It has been working. So we'll keep doing it until it stops working. 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, he scored in 7 Bundesliga games in a row. Only Robert Lewandowski at 12 and Aubameyang at 10 have longer streaks for Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga. So he could get his 8th game in a row where he scored. So 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏, anytime goal scorer, 172.
Indeed, because as 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 says, Dortmund cannot be trusted. Penchev is going for Dortmund, actually. Dortmund to win and over 1.5 goals. New season, new luck. It was not the case against St. Pauli, where they dropped points. Next game, Mainz RB Leipzig. This could be a difficult season for RB Leipzig, losing in the same market Xavi Simons, 𝗀𝗏𝗏, and Openda. We are used to seeing Leipzig selling the best players, but not sure if selling all 3 at the same time, not qualifying for the Champions League, is the best idea. And starting the season, remember, with a 6-0 defeat in Munich. At least they won at home against Heidenheim. And another team that hadn't started the season pretty well is Mainz. Only 1 point, at least they qualified for the conference, although I'm not sure if these are good news, as we saw last season with Heidenheim playing conference and almost getting relegated.
Yeah, I think Mainz had a slightly stronger squad, a bit deeper than Heidenheim had last season, so that should help them a bit in the conference. The draw hasn't been too bad. I think the draw has been favourable enough to them, so it should help them. Whereas RB Leipzig, like you said, they've sold all their players, but they don't have any European football to play for, so they won't have midweek games. So that should help them this season, despite selling everybody, like you pointed out. But I think that's probably the reason they had to sell all these players, is because they didn't get into Europe, and we kind of had been saying that in the last weeks of last season on the show that Leipzig, their business model is to develop these young players, and they need to be in Europe to have a better chance of attracting the likes of the next Openda or 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 or Xavi Simons or whoever the next players that they're coming along. They have signed pretty well. I think there's a good few young players coming through and that they bought over the summer that can definitely help them. But like anything, it takes a while for these things to settle, and we kind of saw that with the result in Bayern Munich on the opening match night, and then they beat Heidenheim before the international break, but it's Heidenheim, so you can't read too much into it yet. In the past, this match has been pretty even. In the past 8 years, the results are evenly split. Both teams won away last season, surprisingly, in the away fixtures. It was a 0-0 draw in the previous game. We've had 3 draws in those last 8 years and 6 wins for each team. So, yeah, it's pretty even when these sides play each other. So it wouldn't be a surprise if it was pretty even again, and that's what we're seeing. 𝐬𝐿𝐴 is predicting a draw. A draw could be a good option, 373. But I'm going for Mainz to do something at home in front of their home crowd. I like Mainz double chance at 148.
Well, Leipzig also spent a lot of money, 136 million euros. and the income for this season was 160. So they've also bought a lot of players, as you said. Next one is a tricky one, Union Berlin Hoffenheim, as we can see in the odds, pretty much very level. The bookies expect a draw, both teams with 3 points. We know how serious, how tough could be beating Union Berlin at their home ground. They beat Stuttgart 2-1 at home, and Hoffenheim had a really tough start of the season, actually playing against Leverkusen, Frankfurt, and now in the capital.
Yeah, Hoffenheim, the result in the first weekend was fantastic for them, but they were able to convert those chances when they got them against Leverkusen, but they couldn't really do it in the game against Frankfurt. And the goal that did come was a consolation goal in the 92nd minute. They were already 3-0 down at that stage, so it didn't really make too much difference. And Union Berlin, they obviously lost to Dortmund, but they beat Stuttgart as well 2-1 in their opening game. So they both kind of have mixed performances from these matches so far. Hoffenheim, they still seem to have the same problem that they had last season, and we kind of flagged it a bit last season that their forwards were struggling to score goals. We weren't really seeing their chances of being converted, and their shooting has let them down against Frankfurt, and it continues kind of to let them down. And I know I had tipped an anytime goal scorer in that one, but it didn't happen. It's one of these things where strikers at Hoffenheim, they just seem to can't find the net as often as they should. So this could be a low-scoring affair, as we often see with Union Berlin games. It's a hard place for any team to go. In each German ground, it's a rarity in the Bundesliga these days. So yeah, total goals under 2.5 could be an option here at 195. Union, they tend to be the better team recently when they play Hoffenheim, surprisingly. They won 2-1 at home and 4-0 away last season, so maybe the same sort of thing could happen here. So rather than tipping Union to definitely win, Union Berlin Asian handicap 0 is 184, so that doesn't look too bad.
Not too bad indeed for a strong home team. 𝐿 is going for Union Berlin to win as well. And the last game in this 3:30 schedule is Wolfsburg Cologne. Both teams started the season pretty well. The biggest surprise has been Cologne, 6 points in their comeback to the Bundesliga, beating Mainz, beating Freiburg, and also for Wolfsburg is positive, although their schedule was easier, beating Heidenheim and drawing with Mainz.
Yeah, Cologne have been the super surprise of the season so far. Who would have thought that they would be one of 3 teams with 2 wins after 2? But yeah, that's the way things have started so far for them in the Bundesliga, and long may it continue. But Wolfsburg is a bit of a trickier fixture, maybe. Not necessarily actually looking at who they've played so far, Mainz and Freiburg. Those are teams that can cause problems. But this Wolfsburg team, they've looked strong this season so far. They have started well enough themselves, kind of surprising expectations a bit, and maybe returning to the Wolfsburg that we've seen a few seasons ago, rather than the kind of stop-start inconsistent Wolfsburg that we've seen maybe more recently. So if they can continue that, they might be able to have a good performance here. Both teams, I think, are capable of getting something from this match. Wolfsburg have had 2 away wins and a draw in the last 3 meetings of the side, but yeah, there hasn't been a home win in this fixture since 2020, so this is not one where the home team tends to win for some reason. The most common result is a 1-1. The most common result in Wolfsburg is also 1-1. Correct score 1-1 in this one is 750. I do like the idea that both teams will be happy enough to take a point in this one, but if we go half that, maybe 355 for a draw, it's probably a better and safer option.
Well, like Cremonese in Italy, newly promoted teams, and 6 points out of 2 games. Great job for Cologne. And on Saturday, we also have Bayern Munich, Hamburg. Really difficult, I guess, to pick the odds for this game. Bayern Munich to win is only 1.09. But I want to ask you about your opinion of Nico Jackson signing. A lot of doubts about the price, about the player. Not only around the journalists, but inside Bayern Munich. Was he needed? Of course, Bayern Munich needed some reinforcement. he knows he's going to be on the bench unless some of the big guns get injured. The big question is the money, right? Or probably even Bayern Munich needed another player in the defensive line.
Yeah, we kind of saw towards the last week of the transfer window that Bayern Munich were not going to spend money on any player. That 𝗋𝐿 came out and said that they would only sign a player on loan if such a player was available. And it looks like Nico Jackson was the only kind of player on Bayern Munich's level that was available. So they ended up paying a loan fee for him. They have an option to buy him, but 𝗲𝗏 has come out and said that the option is never going to be activated because he needs to start 40 games for Bayern Munich this season. Now, even if Bayern Munich made the Champions League final, because the cup matches aren't counted, there's a maximum, because he's away for African Cup of Nations, there's a maximum of 49 possible games he could play. So he has to start nearly every match. Bayern Munich have to make the Champions League final, probably. Yeah, and then that's the only way they could buy him. So it's not happening. Nico Jackson is not staying at Bayern Munich, unless, of course, he played pretty well. And Chelsea decide, we'll take actually less money, because we've seen it in the past that some of the times these options can be negotiated down. So I think there is a chance he will play well, because Bayern Munich do need strength in attack. They do need a plan B instead of Harry Kane, because what happens if Harry Kane gets injured? Because they have nobody. They don't even have Thomas Muller anymore to kind of put him as a makeshift forward for a few games. And he's over in America or Canada having a great time at the moment. It looks like playing MLS. So yeah, they don't have any option behind Harry Kane. So it's more of an insurance policy, a very expensive loan insurance policy. Yeah, Bayern Munich, like you said, they probably did need a defender, but the hope is that 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐷𝗀𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏 and their injured players will be back, kind of Musiala, of course, after the next international break. So then they'll only have played a couple of Champions League games by then, and they'll have their full squad kind of available, and they'll have Nico Jackson as a different option in attack, and maybe can get some goals, and maybe can get some games against the likes of Hamburg to give Harry Kane a rest. So that's kind of hope, I think.
Yeah, the thing is that Bayern Munich, they are storming every team at the moment. With the season just started, they have an easy schedule. This game, you can see the odds are very low. In the Champions League, they are facing Pafos away. So perhaps time to rest Harry Kane. We've seen plenty of goals also from Luis Diaz, from Olise in this start of the season. It's been brilliant. Probably until November, we should back Bayern Munich with Asian handicap at this point.
That is the option, but it's there's not a lot of value even in that. You're looking for value everywhere. Harry Kane is 133 to score anytime. There's no value in that, so you have to ignore that. If you look at Michael Olise or Luis Diaz, they're the other players who've been getting goals or assists for Bayern Munich. Those to score or assist are 140. There's not great value in those either. Bayern over 2.5 goals, so to score 3 goals, that's also 140. So everyone is expecting Bayern Munich to score 6 goals or more against Hamburg. We're getting some comments here that correct score 3-0. Wouldn't be surprised, but 𝗵𝐻 is saying Bayern could win 8-0, and you've seen it before in the Bundesliga. You wouldn't be surprised if it was 8-0. So yeah, Bayern to score in both halves is also 140. So I'm ignoring that. The only option that I can see that is decent value from Bayern Munich in this match is Bayern to win both halves, 170.
Really difficult to find value indeed in this game. Maybe 3-0 is even very short. Hamburg lost the derby against St. Pauli. St. Pauli playing on Sunday against Augsburg. So St. Pauli must be very, very happy with their start of the season. 4 points, draw against Dortmund, when they were losing and beating the rival Hamburg 2-0 is a perfect start. Augsburg, I guess also they cannot complain with 3 points played by Bayern Munich in the last game.
Yeah, and it was a 3-2 defeat against Bayern, so it was a good enough performance in the Bavarian derby. So yeah, Augsburg, I think they'll be happy enough. They don't really expect much else. They can pick up points against Bayern now and then, but no team kind of in Augsburg's position or in the mid-table sort of team expects to pick up points most of the time that they play Bayern. So 3-2 they'll be happy enough after that. St. Pauli, they're 5th, so they're knocking on the door of the Champions League this season if they continue this. I don't think it's likely, but maybe it's likely they slip up here because this is one where Augsburg have had the recent form because they haven't met too often with St. Pauli. Only kind of relative newcomers are back in the Bundesliga. The only head-to-head then is last season. There was a 1-1 draw in the game in Hamburg and a 3-1 win in Augsburg. So, yeah, I like the way Sandro Wagner has set up Augsburg so far this season. They're averaging 2.5 goals per game. They are kind of much more kind of dynamic in attack than we've seen from maybe previous Augsburg teams. So he is kind of putting his money where his mouth is so far in the Bundesliga. He's kind of a breath of fresh air. He is a big character to have in post-match interviews and things like that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Sandro Wagner's Augsburg this season. And if you look at their away form, even before Wagner took charge, it was excellent at the end of last season. They lost the last 2 away games of last season, but before that and to start this season, they were unbeaten in 8 of the last 11 away games in the Bundesliga. So they tend to travel very well. I think they'll travel very well again here. So I'm going for Augsburg to win 3-31.
All right, draw for 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. And the last game we have in this match day is Gladbach, Werder Bremen, both with only 1 point. Gladbach with no goals scored. Bremen lost to Frankfurt 4-1 and drew with Leverkusen. Really tough schedule. So even worse, I would say, even the start for Gladbach. But they are the favorites here.
Yeah, this is one kind of hard to predict who is going to come out on top, but I think it'll be a tense enough affair. Bremen, I know they had that good result against Leverkusen, and they had a red card in that match, but I'm not sure it's going to happen too often. They're not going to play a disastrous 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 anymore in the Bundesliga because he is gone. So, yeah, Bremen might turn into the Bremen that we expected at the start of the season as possible relegation candidates or a team that will struggle for the large part because they haven't really invested well over the summer. And Gladbach, they've made a few kind of interesting signings. Gio Reyna has come in, so we'll see how he does. And there's a high hope that he can kind of reinvent himself or kind of kick back on a bit because he was linked with a move to Italy, but that didn't happen. And he's staying in Germany, and he had some good form when he kind of broke through at Borussia Dortmund. So they're hoping that he can come back. The Roland Murphy, the managing director, said that he's an excellent footballer and he can decide matches on his own. So it'll be interesting to see how they deploy him, and it'll be interesting to see whether the other player who could have moved to Italy is going to start on the other end of the pitch, or is he fit enough to start? Victor Boniface. Is he going to set to get his debut in this match because he's also stuck around the Bundesliga? The big question I have in this match is who is going to score any goals for Borussia Mönchengladbach. Tim Kleindienst is injured. They brought in Machino to be their big hope. He got 11 and 32 for Kiel last season, but he's yet to score for Borussia Mönchengladbach. They have not scored in the Bundesliga yet this season. They drew 0-0 with Hamburg. They lost 1-0 to Stuttgart. Both teams only have 1 point. You wouldn't rule out a draw in this one, but I think it's just going to be a poor match. So I'm going for total goals under 3.25, and that's 180.
Tough to watch, probably. This one over 1.5 goals in the first half. That's a lot of goals, actually. Penchef is telling us, Bundesliga match day 3 analyzed. Now it's time for you to place your bets or to place your tips in Oddspedia. You can post your tips for free and win some cash prizes thanks to our tipster competitions. And remember also that you can participate in Rivals, our customized tipster competitions where you can create your own tipster league. There you are seeing what Rivals is. Ronan, safe bet?
My safe bet is Leverkusen and Frankfurt over 2.25 goals. That's 136.
Maybe we have to wait until the end, like in the Israel-Italy, to get the safe bet correct. And the ACCA?
My ACCA, hopefully it's a bit better than the last one. The last one, which was a winner, because Bayern Munich scored enough goals, but there were 2 Asian handicap 0 matches that turned out to be draws. So the lowest ACCA we've probably ever won on the show, but it counts as a win. So we'll say we're 2 from 2 so far this season. So we'll try for 3 from 3. My ACCA this time is going to be Leverkusen Frankfurt over 2.25 goals again. Stuttgart double chance. Dortmund over 1.5 goals, and Bayern home for a total of 397.
Well, going for a hat trick of ACCAs. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Ronan, for analyzing with us the Bundesliga. See you next week. Bye.